I'm supposed to be on vacation, but these games journalists just can't stop pissing me off, can they? I had to rant about this. So IGN just doesn't want us to have nice things, I guess. At least they don't want devs to give you the things you ask for. Yesterday, it was confirmed that World of Warcraft Classic would be launching on August 27th, with the beta launching soon. If you're unaware, WoW Classic is going to be a separate mode that will allow players to turn back the clock and play World of Warcraft as it was during its original release. Essentially, these will be like vanilla servers, which have been widely demanded by the fan base, as the game played much differently back then than it does today, and will bring some more variety for players. I think there's nothing wrong with that, right? Of course there is, because since the release date reveal led to much discussion about the game online, game journalists couldn't help but try to rain on the fans' parade. A senior manager at IGN named Justin Davis chimed in on the WoW Classic talk on Twitter and said, quote, "Prediction, World of Warcraft Classic will be the biggest, most high-profile example of gamers not actually wanting the thing they think they want." So, this is a terrible hot take. We'll start with that for a multitude of reasons. For one, I don't get why more options like this are necessarily a bad thing. No one is claiming this will, overtake current WoW. Like all things in this space, it will probably boom at launch with a bunch of users out of the gate testing it out, and then level off and find a stable audience. I'm sure they'll be looking for any excuse to call it a failure. That's why I want to specify that. Nobody expects this to take the world by storm and bring WoW back to its original heights. But don't forget, this is also a proven concept. This isn't just players asking for these classic servers. The players themselves had been hosting them on their own private servers a long time, until Blizzard started shutting them down and hitting them with cease and desist orders. Many of you probably remember the Nostalrius story from 2016 when they shut down one of the biggest of these vanilla classic servers that boasted 11,000 concurrent players, which may not sound like a lot, but for something on a private server that people have to go through a bunch of hoops to play or to even find, that's pretty good. And like I said, this was just one of many of these private servers, and then we'd come to find out this was to make way for Blizzard making their own classic servers. Obviously, you don't want to compete with someone giving away your product for free, so at the end of the day, I think it did make sense that they would want to shut those down. But yeah, it's proven that this is something the players want. They've actually been playing it previously. But of course, that doesn't stop the big brains over at IGN from trying to slap it down. The last side they're going to be on is the players, so that doesn't really surprise me. But it only starts here. This tweet came across Mark Kern's feed. Mark Kern was the team lead on Vanilla WoW, who asked for people to remember this tweet, saying, quote, "This tweet won't age well, further cementing mainstream game journos as the least qualified people on the planet to cover games." Obviously, I love this guy now. But going off of what I stated earlier, this did seem like an epically awful take. He also noted, like I mentioned, no one expects this to overtake the main WoW, but there's plenty enough proven demand for it to be profitable for Blizzard to do so, and I think it's also going to work as a nice hook to get people to try the current version of World of Warcraft. You're going to get people hyped to play Classic WoW, relive that nostalgia. And, since you're going to have to sign up for the subscription again, you'll probably end up checking out the current World of Warcraft. So there's just so many positive aspects to this. I just don't see how you could see it as a bad thing. The Davis guy comes back, of course, with the victim card. "Please don't attack me." This again coming from the person who started all this with essentially saying Classic WoW would be a failure. You, the players, don't know what you want. Yes, just let me say this project is a waste of time and don't disagree with me, or that's an attack. To the game journalists, if you don't want people making this broad assumption, calling game journalists idiots, then stop being such idiots, okay? But then, and here's where it got really bad for me. Then a bit of a pile-on started as Davis is, hitting Kern with a full-on thread of responses. Another IGN staffer, James Duggan, jumps on the guy, quote tweeting him and saying, This is a great example of how folks in 2019 actively seek out narratives that conform their worldview and nothing else. Mark could have read the preview that I stayed up till 3 in the morning working on, where I praise WoW Classic, but instead he chose to find something that he can hate. I mean, for one, oh, your life is so hard staying up until 3 a.m. writing about video games. Let's all take a moment to grieve for Duggan's hard life. But yeah, this is hilarious for several reasons, like I said. For trying to be like, oh, I stayed up till 3 a.m. working on this. My life's so hard. Give me a break. If you're an actual gamer, you're probably staying up till 3 a.m. anyway. But also, stating that Kern must have been seeking this out. Again, he's the fucking lead on Vanilla WoW. And a so-called games journalist from the biggest games media outlet there is bashing what is essentially a relaunch of his game. You think maybe this just came across his feed naturally? Maybe someone brought it up to him? And he should have read your preview? Again, your preview wasn't even being discussed. These guys' heads are so far up their own asses. And listen here, because I'm being serious. They think they are such a big deal that you should just be aware of everything they do. Why didn't he read my preview instead? Like, sorry, we're not all just sitting here hitting the refresh button on IGN's page all day so we can be sure to read every trash tier article you guys publish. And as I'm sure they assumed would happen, their readers started attacking Kern over not really his take, over this article that, again, wasn't even mentioned originally here. You can see Kern responding to one of these people with just that, like, not even understanding why they're talking to him about some article that wasn't the discussion. And again, you guys look real professional. Keep it classy, essentially trying to pile on this guy, one dev at once, and bullying him into not sticking up for his game. A game that changed the landscape of the industry. Say what you want about World of Warcraft, but you can't argue against that. Maybe you hacks could try having a little bit of respect for people like this, and maybe, just maybe, you could earn a little bit of respect back that you've lost from the gaming masses, which is why your posts always rack up so many dislikes and backlash, because, yeah, like you said, no one trusts you. Kern also, I'd like to mention, said he's noticed games journalists being particularly on edge lately, which I would totally agree, and I think it stems from having such horrible takes, and then crying when people point out how horrible they are, as we've seen here. At the end of the day, Blizzard, in this instance, is giving players what they've been asking for. Once more, I'm not trying to white knight for these companies. It's just these journalists are so dumb that they often force me to. And I'm not really just defending Blizzard here, I'm defending this individual developer. But I do think this was a sign of good faith, especially since they're not charging extra for this. Like, making Classic its own expansion of sorts, or God forbid, its own subscription. Like I always say, we should be critical of these companies, but also fair, and praise the things they do right. And it's not like they were really even going after Blizzard. They're going after this individual dev, again, for sticking up for his game. But for some reason, these journalists, I guess, they don't like that. They don't like when a developer listens to the players. Maybe it has to do with them feeling like they're losing influence, which clearly they are, but even more so in this age of social media, it's like the developers can have such direct communication with their fan bases, and it's like these news outlets are rapidly losing their ability to claim to speak for these masses, and it kind of seems like that's what's making them so upset. They don't have the control over the industry or the direction of these games like they used to. Also, very unbiased, guys. I'm sure I'll trust IGN's coverage of WoW Classic when it comes out. Keep shooting yourselves in the foot, guys. It's at least entertaining to watch. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on IGN's disdain for players getting what they want in the comments. I guess, should these companies stop listening to fans and just trust the professionals like IGN? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of IGN's hatred for players getting what they want and attempted bullying of a game developer. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter @JohnnyZakari and join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends. Link to both in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.